Real quick, before we continue with the episode, I want to let you know that if you're a creative person who wants to share your creative gift or whatever you're passionate about with other people and create an online community, a podcast is an amazing way to do it. And you can start a podcast today with Anchor by Spotify. It's such an easy way to make a podcast. Trust me. I'm not a tech person and I did it. So if I can do it, honey, you can too, okay? Anchor has tools to allow you to record and edit your podcast from your phone or your computer. And you can host on Anchor and it will distribute your podcast to platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. So you don't have to worry about, uploading your podcast to all these different sites. And it's everything that you need to make a podcast in one place. And it's 100% free. So there you go. Let's go. Start your podcast, create your online community, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. All right, without further ado, let's continue. Welcome to the Creatively by Estelle podcast. I'm your host, Estella Berry, and I'm so glad that you're here. This show is all about being creative and pursuing your creative passions while you're in medical school or a professional program or grad program of any kind. Okay, you are welcome here. So let's start creating and let's get into this episode. Hello. Welcome back to the Creatively by Estelle podcast. I'm so happy you're here as always. Thank you for listening in. I hope you've had a great week, a great weekend, and now you're ready to start this new week, ready to get into it. I know that God has some great things in store for us this new week. So yeah, just feel encouraged. Everything's going to be okay. And I hope you have enjoyed some of the replays that I've been having these past couple of weeks. Been a little busy, so I was like, let's revisit some of my favorite podcasts so far. And I'm so grateful that already, just within a couple months of having this podcast, like I already have some episodes that I really truly enjoy and that I really liked recording and listening back to. And so, yeah, I hope you enjoyed those replays. I'll definitely do replays every now and then just to remind you of really good episodes that I think are still helpful and important to listen to. So awesome. So for this episode today, it's actually also continuing, or I guess referring back to a past episode. Today's episode is going to be talking about how to be present, just like we had a couple episodes ago, but this is a part 2. So a few weeks ago, I did an episode called How to Be Present, and that was like a part 1. Having done that, I realized that there was still more to be said about this topic, and it's such a big topic, and there's so much that you can say about it. But I realized that I still had things that I've been feeling just like God speaking to me about, and I've been seeing in my own life how I've been trying to do things or realizing that certain things are helping me to feel more present, more grounded in the present moment that God has given me, and not so much thinking about the future and not so much worrying over the future, because that's one thing that we as medical students and as students in general, we tend to fall into that trap often of worrying about the next exam, worrying about the next thing, which obviously is understandable. And yes, we have to have a healthy level of concern about things in the future because we need to be thinking ahead. Even the Bible tells us that we have to, think ahead, that we have to plan our ways. But the Lord is the one who's going to direct our path, who's going to direct our steps. And so we do need to plan ahead. We should think ahead for sure. However, I think we have a tendency to go a little too far and get into anxiety and get into stress when we overthink about the future and what could happen. And so being present is really helpful, a helpful thing to think about when you're a student. And I think that there are a lot of ways we can do it that utilize our creative interests, our creative passions, and our creative spirits, I guess, mindsets as well. And so the last time we talked about this in part 1, the 3 tips I gave were to first journal. So ways to be present in medical school, the number one way that I had was journaling, which is of course a very helpful, just like therapeutic, in my opinion, beautiful creative outlet that anyone and everyone can engage in at any point in time. And it's so helpful and it's a great way to stay present. So that was the first one. The second one was to spend time meditating and praying. So praying, meditating on the word of God, meditating on, the good things that God has done in your life, reflecting, that type of thing. And then the third thing was to look up and just looking around you more, being more aware of the beauty around you, of beautiful things in nature, of beautiful things in people that you see, traits in people that you admire, that you love, things, just things around you that you can just look up more and notice things more. That idea of looking up is really helpful when it comes to trying to be present and engaged in the present moment that God has placed you in. And so today's part two, I have four things actually. And we're going to end on a creative note since this show is all about staying creative in medical school. So I was like, we're going to end on a creative note. But for the first three things are, I guess everything's related, but kind of a continuation of the first episode. And also will include things that I feel like I've definitely mentioned in other episodes. So the number one so, the first thing that I have for this part two of being present in medical school, first thing that I have is to talk to people, which this kind of relates a little bit to the idea of looking up and like pausing and like making space to look at, look around you and not just be focused on, you know, what's going on and like what you have to do on your next task and et cetera, et cetera. But this is something that I'm realizing I like kind of neglected recently because I started studying at home more. And um, yeah, I just realized that I wasn't really making time to talk to people as much as I should have been, especially as an extrovert. That's very weird. I don't know why. Why did I do that? It's not a good idea. So, to avoid loneliness, to avoid, um, just getting into your head and overthinking things, and just to get outside of yourself, so you're not just thinking about your own issues and your own self. And it really can lead to selfishness. It can really lead to you only being consumed with yourself, right? And so that's what I've realized, that just in myself, that I've kind of fell into. And so I was like, oh, okay, I need to talk to more people, I need to ask more questions, I need to look outside of myself. And that'll really help me get outside of my head and not just think about myself and, oh, this is what I have, it's my problem, da da da. No, like, talk to other people, engage in conversation, ask people about how they're feeling, about what they're dealing with, about how you can pray for them, how you can help them, how you can be a blessing to them, and just talking to people. And I think ideally outside of like things outside of school, which I know is hard to do, especially like for me, I'm in medical school in the Caribbean. We're kind of like all in a bubble. We're all talking to each other all the time, usually about school. But I promise you, it's really so nice to just like have a conversation about like life and talk about things that aren't directly related to school. Sometimes it really does help. It's a refreshing moment and really invigorates you and just encourages you. And then you're able to then like refocus again on what you have to do next without, having like talked about school 5 seconds ago. Now you're studying again. And it's like, okay, that's all you talk about. That's all you think about. It consumes you. And so I think really taking that time to talk to people and have conversations that are meaningful and important, but aren't necessarily revolving around school. I think that really helps you to stay engaged in the present moment and not overthink about the future. So that's number one for our part two. The second thing I have, I guess, okay, if I had three things before, then I should just continue the numbering, right? So, okay, so that was four. So I had three things before in the past episode: journaling, spending time, meditating, praying, and looking up. Those were three. And then four was talk to people. Okay, I hope that didn't confuse you. I'm sorry. Number five is to establish morning and evening routines. Now, this doesn't have to be dramatic, this doesn't have to be extra. By this, I literally just mean when you wake up in the morning, know the like one to, or I guess like two to three major things that you need to do, that you want to do before you start your day. Same thing at night, so that you know how you're starting and ending your day, like two bookends of your day, right? And then you can just it just helps you to just feel prepared for the day and to go into the day knowing that you've done a certain, your things that feel make you feel good, make you feel well rested or energized or able to take on the day, right? So for me, obviously, it's like brushing my teeth, getting dressed, um, or brushing my teeth, getting showered. When I shower, I play worship music, usually Maverick City music. Hey, um, so I play worship music while I'm like getting dressed, and so like that's a part of my morning routine. Is like when I'm doing that, getting dressed. Um, I'll try to do a workout before all of that though, if that depending on the day. But that can be a part of it. And after I'm dressed, then I'll do like a little devotional depending on um if I yeah, okay. After I get dressed, yeah. I'll do like a devotional, spend time praying, and then I'll get to whatever I need to do. If I'm at home, sometimes I'll just and I'll make breakfast too. So I'll eat something and then I'll do my devotional while I'm eating or something like that usually. So and then if I'm home and I'm studying from home, then I might eat, get some work done, and then do my devotional like right before lunchtime so that I've like gotten some work done and then I can spend time with God before lunch. So it can vary sometimes, but I think just having like a good idea of what you like to do before you start your day really helps you. And then same thing with the end of the day, having your downtime when you're relaxing, when you are winding down, that really does help you with your like resting and then reflecting on your day during that time. You can reflect on the things that God did throughout that time. And yeah, so I hope that helps. Just yeah, spending time or just making sure that you're establishing your morning and your evening routines, and that can look different for everyone. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be extra long, but just some things that you do every morning and every evening that help you start your day when it comes to the morning and help you really wind down when it comes to the evening. Um, yeah, and then number 6, right? So this would be number 6. So the sixth thing to stay present, from in my opinion, is to read slash listen slash learn outside of school. Now, okay, I know this is hard, but what I mean is just literally doing this, like listening to a podcast when you're, on the bus going or on the shuttle going to class or on your commute to wherever you're going or whatever you're doing. Listening in on to a podcast that is not necessarily related to school. So you're thinking about things that aren't necessarily relating to school. These are, that you're learning in ways that you're not constantly learning in, right? So it's like you're maybe learning about life, you're learning about creativity on this show, right? You're learning about being a creative medical student on this show, or another show where you're learning about some other interesting topic that fascinates you or whatever. Or maybe you like reading your Bible. This could be reading your Bible during your devotional time, or maybe you're reading another Christian book to build up your spiritual life or something. So whatever it is, it's something that's not necessarily related to school, but you're learning from it, and that is a great way to stay present because then you're not so much invested in thinking like, okay, what's the next task I have to do? What's the next thing I have to do? No, in that moment, you're listening, you're learning, you're growing, you're working on yourself spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And so that's a great way to stay present. All right. And wrapping it up with number 7, which I told you I was going to end on a creative note, and I did not lie. So, number 7 is to create in small ways. And this is something that you can do. I talk about this on the show. You can do every day, you can do every week, whatever it looks like for you, creating in small ways. My favorite way to do this truly on a daily basis has been journaling, especially recently. I've been like making myself at least write a little bit every single day, just reflecting, whether prayer, whether just thoughts that I'm reflecting on, basically me talking to Jesus, but that's just me. So, whatever it is, just creating in a small way. If you like to sing like I do, just like singing one song, like singing something, working on a song that you love, that you're working on in this time. I don't know how you might do it differently than I do. And so like working on that song a little bit every day or every week. If you're a writer, working on something that you're writing a little bit every day or every week, just setting aside 10 minutes to work on something you're writing and just keep adding to it and creating that discipline. And at the same time, you're allowing yourself space to create in a small way every day and allowing yourself to stay present in that moment. So that is number 7. And this is the part 2 of how to be present while you're in medical school, guys. I know it's hard. I know that you're always thinking about the future and anticipating what's coming next, and that's important. But remember that God has given you so much to do and to enjoy even in this moment right now. So make sure you're making that time and you're making that space. And I hope that these tips help. Again, the first one, harkening back to the last episode, was journaling, spending time with in prayer or meditation. 3, looking up. 4, talking to people, ideally about things outside of school. 5, establishing a morning and evening routine. 6, reading, listening, and learning outside of school. And 7, creating in small ways. I hope this helped you. And if it did, let me know. Let me know if you have any other thoughts or any other advice. Trust me, I'd love to hear it and share it as well. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great week, and remember to stay present. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode. Real quick before you go, there is a Facebook page that I made called the Creatively Community, and I'd love for you to search that on Facebook and go ahead and like it, because I'm going to continue to post some content there, and we're going to make that into a group so we can keep building community, okay? So thanks so much again, and I'll see you next week.